Hi everybody and welcome to The Doomed, episode 4. Once again, Judge Damiel and his servants of Purity Warband will embark on a mission, and this time they will have to cleanse an abandoned company facility of bugs. But the facility could hide something even worse. The conflict this time is Purge, and the goal is to kill at least 5 out of 7 bugs spread across the company facility. The bugs have a quality of 5, they have nimble, and they attack with jaws. But inside the facility there are also 3 nexus breaches that will allow unspeakable horrors to creep up to the surface. At the end of each round, the company's former clean-up crew, the Steel Rippers, will appear one each turn, and they will appear at a random nexus. And when the first nexus is destroyed, the horror itself, the Abyssal Colossus, will appear with a quality of 3 armed with Typhoon Launcher and War Talon, and also an ability to regenerate. So the judge and his warband will have their hands full in this mission. The trick is that the horror and the minions will treat the bugs as unbound, and the other way around as well. Judge Damiel is the leader of the Servants of Purity. He is tough, and he has Condemn. He's armed with a Thundergun and a Relic Blade, and he has the leader ambitions, Supremacy and Prosperity. His next in command is the champion Sothar. He's fierce, armed with a blaster, a blade, and a shield. He's injured from the last battle, so if he's taken out in this mission, he will die for good. And then we have the Zealot Eilik. He's tough, he's a fanatic and armed with a Relic Blade, and he's also injured. So the judge must be very careful with these 2. Then we have the Chronicle Wilford. He has 8 and he's armed with an incinerator. And finally, a new member of the servants, this time the Pathfinder Osbert. He has Shortcut and he's armed with a Thundergun. If you are familiar with the Servants of Purity, you will know that the Herald Sigmund is not dead, but he will not take part in this mission. Since the last time the Doom Tracker has moved in the category, Ruin and Crumbling World is in effect in this battle, meaning that anybody taken out by falling damage will be permanently destroyed. Round 1. The first one to enter at the edge of the battlefield is the Chronicle Wilford, and from this position he can take a shot at this bug with his incinerator. He will need a 4 to hit. 1 hit against the bug, and it will have a quality of 5, so it will not defend, but with nimble it can reroll saves versus ranged attacks. That will not do any good. So in the end the bug will be hit, and the roll on the shock table, it's an 8. It's fight back, but the bug is not able to fight back against Wilford. It has no ranged attacks, so the bug is downed. Wilford will then take his second action, and it's a move action. He will move to this position, and he will use his third action to move as well, and then he'll have to pass a quality test, and with a 4 he is good. So he will jump up the rocks here, and then he will be exhausted. The bug closest to Wilford will move against him. So a free move first, and then it will have to roll, and it's a failed quality test, but it can re-roll moves. Again, it will fail, and also with the third attempt, it will not be able to move any further, so it's exhausted. Sothar is the next servant to enter the battlefield, and remember, he must be careful, he's injured. So his first action will be to fire his blaster. 2 shots, he will need a 4, and he will hit with both his shots. And the bug will not save, and next Sothar will move, and then he will attack the bug with his blade, taking it out. And 1 bug is already down. It will try to recover, and it is successful. So the bug here is back in action. It will move towards Wilford with its second action, and it will have a third action, and it will be successful, so it will move into contact with Wilford, but there will be no actions left to attack. Now finally the judge himself will enter the battle. All his servants are more effective when he's around, so he will start with a move action, and then he will attempt to move further up the rock. He has a quality of 3, he is the best and most effective member, and he will easily jump up the rock. And finally, his third action, he will fire his Thundergun at the buck. He has 1 shot, but it will do quite a good deal of damage, and he will hit the buck. And it will be hit with 3 shots. And it will defend all of them. Wow, what a roll. So no damage. But maybe it's still not safe, because the judge can use his Condemn ability, and he will point out the buck, and all his servants that are able to see it will attack. And Sothar will hit with his blaster twice. This time the buck will block 1 of the shots, and not the other. And with a roll of 8 and a double on the shock table, the buck is taken out, and it will fight back against its attacker, and it's not able to do so, so it will be removed. Judge Damiel is now exhausted, and the next buck will activate. It will move to the edge of this rock building and then try to get down. And it will move down with the reroll, and then it will have a third action. It will, of course, try to move as close to the servants as possible, and it's successful this time. And then it's exhausted. Now the new member of the servants, Osbert here, if he ends his turn at the edge of the battlefield, he will be able to move along the edge. But for now, he will move to this ladder up to the platform, and then he will try to move up the platform. And we'll just re-roll that one. Let's see. He is not able to move up, but in his final attempt, he will move up and have a good overview from his position on this platform. Then we have a buck hiding in the crater over here, so it will move again. They will move towards the nearest visible or non-visible enemy, but with rolls for movement and rerolls, it will not be able to go any further. And then the final member of the Servants of Purity will enter the battle. And it's Eilik. He's also injured. He can move in one straight line towards this buck, and he can attack it with his Relic Blade. He will attack with 3 dice, and he is a fanatic, so he will need a quality of 3 only. And he will hit with 2 attacks. And the buck will block 1 and fail the other. So once again, there will be a roll on the shock table. And this time it's 9. It's crawl. So the buck will crawl away somewhere more safe than right next to the Relic Blade swinging salad. And it's over here, and then it's downed. But Eilik is not finished yet. He will take his third action, and he will try to move to the buck again. He will have to roll, and he has a +1 modifier because he can see the judge. So he will chase the buck. And with all the servants exhausted and no horrors or minions on the battlefield yet, the remaining bucks will try to get as close as possible. And, well, they are not that successful. But let's see where they move. Here at the end of the first round, the bucks have moved closer towards the servants. And the servants were quite effective here in the first round, taking out a few bucks. They need to take out 5 bucks to complete the conflict. But here at the end of the first round, the first Steel Ripper will appear. And it will appear close to one of the nexus breaches, and we will roll a die to see exactly where it will show up. And it's a roll of 3, so it's the middle nexus here. The Steel Ripper will appear. And another thing at the end of the first round is a roll on the response table. And it's a roll of 6. It's a great roll for the judge because he can point out one steel river and it will collapse into a pile of scrap. It just appeared, but with a heavy malfunction, apparently it's out again. So far, Judge Damiel can focus on the bugs in the facility. There will be no horrors or minions yet. Let's go to round 2. Eilik will be the first to activate in round 2. He is already surrounded by bugs, so he will attack the bug next to him with his Relic Blade, and he can see the judge, so he will hit with a 3. 2 hits against the bug, and as usual it will need 5s to block the attack. But it will fail, and then a roll of 10 on the shock table. It's a last gasp, a free action, and it will, of course, attack Eilik back. 3 jaw attacks with a quality of 5. And it will hit once. And Eilik has a quality of 5 as well, and he will roll a 6. He is safe from the bug attack, and it will go down. So he's now surrounded by 2 downed bugs. But he can attack yet again. He can attack twice in a round. He will hit once, and the bug will fail defense roll, and it's taken out immediately. Now Eilik will withdraw slightly. He will use his first move action and move back, so he's not so exposed in the middle of the battlefield. He is injured after all. Now the bug that was just slammed down by Eilik will activate, and it will recover with its first action. The next action is to move against Eilik. It's out for revenge. And finally, the third action will be another attack, and again it will hit with one of the jaw attacks. And Eilik is able to block the attack yet again. That was close. Judge Damiel will activate. He has to find a way to destroy the nexus. So he will move once and a second time, and then he will go into contact with the nexus. And by doing so, he will immediately take it out. But he will also receive a die of damage. 5 damage against Judge Damiel. Brutal. Let's see if he can block any of them. And it looks like he can absorb all the nexus damage. He was hit 5 times. He will shake it off like nothing. And the nexus is destroyed. That will trigger the first nexus effect. And that is the Abyssal Colossus. The horror will finally show up. And it will also immediately take a free action, and of course it will attack the judge. 1 attack with its War Talon, and it will hit. It has a quality of 3, so that's 5 damage towards the judge. Let's see if his defenses are as effective as before. Not exactly. He will fail 1, but he's tough. He can re-roll, but it will not be enough for the judge this time. He will be hit, and he will go down. And a roll of 6 on the shock table, the judge will panic and attack the nearest target. And that is, of course, the Abyssal Colossus. So this biomechanical monstrosity could make the judge panic. Even the battle-hardened judge was shaken by the sight. So he will swing his Relic Blade against the Abyssal Colossus, and he will hit. The Colossus has a quality of 3. And it will make all the saves, so the judge will not hit anything with his blade. So finally now, he will go down from the attack of the Abyssal Colossus. He still has 1 action left though, so he will of course immediately try to recover and get back on his feet. That will be highly necessary in front of the Colossus. This could be fatal for the servants, but let's see. He will recover and stand up again, shake off his panic, and be ready for what's coming. But question is, can he resist the attacks of the Abyssal Colossus? They are already in base contact, so the first attack. And it will fail with a roll of 1, but it will be able to attack again, and it's another failed attack. The judge is really, really lucky now. And the Abyssal Colossus will not be able to fire the ranged weapons in base contact, so instead it will use the third and final action to move back. Wilford will now fire up his incinerator. He has several targets, but he will target the Abyssal Colossus first. So 3 shots against the Colossus. He will hit with a roll of 4. And there we go. He will hit with only 1. And the Colossus must block with a roll of 3. And it will fail again. Really bad dice rolls. So it will be hit now. The Colossus is taken down and will have to roll on the shock table. It's a roll of 8. So it will fight back. And it will be able to fire no less than 5 shots with the Typhoon launcher. And it will hit on a roll of 3. Let's check out the dice rolls now. Will it be able to hit something finally? And there we go. It looks like 5 hits. So all the Typhoon launcher shots will hit Wilford. And he, of course, has a chance to save them. But no. There will be several hits going through. He is forced to roll on the shock table. And he will roll 9, so he will crawl away, a free move. And what would be the wisest thing to do now? Probably to get a bit more distance between him and the Colossus. But he is down. But more importantly, so is the Colossus. And Wilford still has a few actions left. He will try to recover, and he is successful in his first recovery attempt. And that leaves 1 action. And why not target the annoying bug right in front of him? He can fire his incinerator twice around, but not at the same target. And the bug is a different target. He will be hit twice. He will block them both. So, well, a really hard bug to kill. So furious and still alive, the bug will make a move action and a second move action, and it's successful. That will take it into contact with Wilford, so he will now be able to attack. And luckily for Wilford, the attack is unsuccessful. Sothar, the champion and the second in command, he is armed with both ranged and melee weapons. First, he will target the bug next to Wilford, but he will misfire his shot. Then he will take a move action to the bug here next to Eilik, and he will attack it with his blade. And he will hit once. He can reroll because he's fierce, and that means 2 hits against the bug. So, and well, a nice try, but it will fail. It will not save any of the hits, and the roll on the shock table is a 7, so it's downed with no further effect. Next bug to activate, and it is an unbound unit, and it will treat the Abyssal Colossus as an enemy as well. So instead of attacking the judge, it will move down and attack the Colossus. And we know that the Colossus cannot be destroyed when there are still a nexus on the battlefield, but he will be attacked nonetheless, and he will save no hits. Osbert will move close to the chemical tank here, and he must be very careful not to fall into the toxic substance. And from this position, he can target the bug on the faraway building and the bridge between them. And he will hit with his Thundergun, and the bug will not defend all of the hits, and it will roll 5 on the shock table, and that will throw it directly away from Osbert. So it will land somewhere around here. Let's see if the buck can recover. No, it's not able to recover, so it will be downed at the beginning of the next round. Judge Damiel destroyed one nexus and the Abyssal Colossus showed up in the second round, and some of the bugs have already been exterminated, but not the 5 bugs that the servants need to kill yet. Again, at the end of the round, a Steel Ripper will appear, and it will have 2 Nexus breaches to choose from, and it will deploy at the far end of the facility. Again, we'll have to roll on the response table, and it's a 3 this time, and that enables all Steel Rippers to make a free move. So the one that appeared will move in one straight line under the walkway, and that will take it to just about here. So far, the servants have things more or less under control. Let's go to the third round. The judge has tasked himself with the destruction of the Nexus breaches. Only he can withstand the destructive power. So he will make a move action into the next Nexus, and this time he will take 6 hits from the destroyed Nexus. Ooh. Again, he tries his very best to save them all. He has rerolls because he's tough, and he will save all but one of the hits. The Nexus will be destroyed, and that will trigger the next Nexus effect. Now all the weapons of the Abyssal Colossus have rending, and the judge will go down. And the roll on the shock table is a 9, so the judge will make a free crawl move that might not be so bad. That will take him to here, and he still has 2 actions left. So let's see if he can recover from the damage, and he can barely get himself back together. And that leaves 1 action. He will try another move, and he is successful. He will take position here behind the crate, where he's able to see the third and final Nexus. The Colossus forgot to check the regeneration ability in the last round, and it is regenerated, so it will be standing at the beginning of its activation. And the first action is to attack the bug, because it is the nearest enemy. And the War Talon will hit with 5 devastating strikes. And the bug will not save them all. So it will be hit and roll on the shock table. And it's a roll of 5, so the bug will be thrown through the air from the powerful strike and land somewhere over here. Yeah, and of course it's down. And the Colossus still has line of sight to enemy units. But again, the servants have positioned themselves very wise. So the nearest enemy is another bug, and the Typhoon launcher will fire and hit, and the bug will try at least to save, and it will not save anything, and it will go down. And the roll on the shock table is a 7, so no further effects. And that leaves 1 action remaining for the Abyssal Colossus. And it cannot fire again, so it will move instead closer to the servants. Wilford is up next, and he will begin with a move action that will take him away from the downed bug. And here he can fire his incinerator. He will choose to fire at the Steel Ripper, and he will hit with all 3 shots. And the Steel Ripper will block 2 of them, but fail the final one. So he will be hit and go down. Let's see the roll on the shock table. It's a 6, so he panics and attacks the nearest target, and he is closest to the bug that is already down. So he will attack with 2 metal claws, also with a quality of 5, and he will hit the downed bug, and it's already down, and it will fail defense rolls, and it's out. But the Steel Ripper will of course also go down. He was hit in the first place. Now Wilford will fire his Incinerator for the second time against the downed buck. He will take it out, and then he will be able to take a free move action because he can see the judge. He has the ability 8, and he will jump on the crate. The Steel Ripper will see if it can get back up. So a recovery attempt, a roll of 5 is needed, and it's good. So the Steel Ripper will jump back up into action. And the closest unit is Eilik. So it will move towards Eilik, and then it will attack with the metal claws. Ooh, and Eilik is injured, and it will hit with one of the claws. He has a quality of 5. Now it could be all over for Eilik if he is taken out. Let's see if he can block the attack. No, he cannot. He is tough though, so he can reroll, and he will make the save. Ooh, that was close. But he is still standing. Sothar will immediately try to save his servant brother, so he will fire at the Steel Ripper, and he will hit. The Steel Ripper must block the blaster attacks, and it will block. Nope, it will not block any of the hits. And the roll on the shock table is a 6, and that is not good because it will panic and attack the nearest enemy, and that is Eilik again. And it will hit one more time against Eilik. He will still need a 5. No, and the tough reroll. And no, Eilik finally went down. Sothar's attempt to save him had the completely opposite effect. He goes down with a 7 on the shock table, so no further effects. And the Steel Ripper will, of course, go down as well. Sothar is not finished yet. That was his first action, so he takes a second action, and he moves to the Steel Ripper and attacks it with his blade. 2 attacks, he will hit with a 4, and we'll reroll that one, and in the end he will hit once. 1 hit against the downed Steel Ripper that will not defend his blade, and being down already, the Steel Ripper will be destroyed. Next up, this buck will try to recover, and it will fail. And Eilik also has a recovery attempt, and he will also have a reroll because he is tough, but not tough enough to get back up. He's still downed. And the final buck will also try to recover, and no. That leaves the last activation of the round to Osbert, and he will take a sniper shot against the buck on the faraway building. And as far as I can see, it's a 1, so it's not a hit, but he is precise, and he can reroll, and this time he is on target. He will hit with a damage of 3 from his Thundergun, and the downed buck will not save any of the shots. It's shot to pieces. Satisfied with himself, Osbert will stay on the walkway. He just took out buck number 5, so the Servants of Purity have completed the conflict now. But they still need to get rid of the Abyssal Colossus, and they must destroy the final nexus first. Again, a Steel Ripper will appear here at the end of the third round, and it will of course appear with the only remaining nexus. So here it is, and a roll on the response table at the end of the round is another 6. That was again a very fortunate roll for the Servants of Purity. The just arrived Steel Ripper will collapse into a pile of scrap and be removed again. Besides a few downed bucks, the Servants of Purity can now focus completely on the Abyssal Colossus. It's round 4. And once again, Judge Damiel will have to take the heavy burden it is to be the one who can destroy the Nexus breaches. So for the third time he will move into the Nexus, and this time he'll take 4 damage. But of course the Nexus will be destroyed. And he will save all the damage this time. Great. So the destruction of the third and final Nexus will trigger the third Nexus effect. And that will give the Abyssal Colossus tough. But the judge is not finished yet. He will attempt another move. He will need a 3 to pass, and he is good, so he will move back to the crate. From here, he has a clear line of sight to the Abyssal Colossus, and he will have 1 action left to fire his Thundergun. So 1 shot, and he will hit. Even though the Abyssal Colossus is partially concealed, he will still be on target. And the Colossus will fail 1 save, but it has tough now, so it will be able to reroll. And it will fail again. Highly unexpected. The Abyssal Colossus must now roll on the shock table. It will be hit by the judge, and it's double 1. The judge aimed his Thundergun and he pierced the heart and shortcut the brain of the Abyssal Colossus with 1 shot, and it will go down and be destroyed. The horror of the Abyssal Colossus is no more. Judge Damiel and his servants of purity were once again successful in their quest. They destroyed 5 bugs and cleansed the facility, and they also defeated the Abyssal Colossus, and this time there are no injuries, and the 2 injured servants are completely fine. It was a tactical masterpiece by the judge to take advantage of the unbound units targeting each other. They will earn rewards, renown, and prestige from this mission, and then they will be ready to take on what's coming up next. Thanks a lot for watching this doomed battle report. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you'll join me for future Bad Reps.